The small African nation-state of Wakanda has, for most of its history, carefully concealed the existence of the Black Panther from the outside world. While Tony Stark and Peter Parker were both barely managing to maintain secret identities, Wakanda had been flawlessly keeping their superpowered royal champions under wraps for centuries. This feat was aided by Wakanda's immensely powerful technological and scientific advancements, hundreds of years ahead of the rest of the world by every metric. Favoring isolation and craving some peace and quiet, Wakanda camouflaged itself as a simple, remote country in the vast continent of Africa, free from not only their prying eyes of the world at large, but from their zealous predatory habits and constant quest for power. However, with the ascension of King T'Challa to the royal throne, the world now knows the existence of the great and formidable Black Panther. Vibranium, the natural resource which fueled Wakanda's growth, is more fervently sought after than ever. Wakanda's great challenge to the modern era then is not to hide but to protect. Today we're going to be looking through the Black Panther's greatest moments in Marvel Comics history. And while we do, keep in mind that this isn't just another superhero saving the day. This is royalty with the best interests of their nation always at the forefront of their mind. Number 10. Quelled a Wakandan rebellion. Though T'Challa has been to deep space and punched demons themselves, his greatest and most difficult challenges would always come from the responsibility of his royal station. Ruling any nation is a tremendous task, particularly when left to one person, but ruling the most powerful and technologically advanced nation on the planet is a level above. When a violent and terroristic rebellion rose from within Wakanda itself, T'Challa desperately looked at the problem from every angle for an answer. Ceding the country, the rebels' demands would mean not only giving up power, but allowing Wakanda's incredible weapon stores and technologies to fall into the hands of those he could not vouch for. To speak nothing of the fact that the rebellion's leadership was fueling their warriors with hatred and fear. In order to quell the rebellion's final advance on the walls of the Golden City, T'Challa desperately called upon the armies of the dead. In true Return of the King style, the living Black Panther called forth the spirits of the Panthers past to aid him in his fight for Wakanda. Miraculously, they heeded his call, once again showcasing the Black Panther's spiritual and mystical prowess. T'Challa fought side by side with a spiritually empowered Shuri. Once again, the king wore the mantle of the Panther as the royal family stood firm against the crashing waves of revolutionaries. When some of the revolting warriors began to feel fear or regret their violent actions, Zenzi, a Wakandan rebel leader with the power to control emotions, commanded the rest of the army to kill off the deserters without mercy. Eventually, though T'Challa's forces do all they can to repel the attack, the city is breached. When these emotionally manipulated soldiers finally do manage to infiltrate the city walls, T'Challa stands between them and the throne with an army of ghost panthers prepared to die once more in defense of Wakanda. With his army of panthers, T'Challa is able to quell the rebellion and sees its final push turned away. Wakanda would not fall that fateful day, although the leaders of the revolution would elude the grasp of the Wakandan justice for that time. The Wakandan rebellion was another reminder that the Black Panther is not just a figure of brawn and technology, they are a hero with deep spiritual connections that can offer magical and mystical support in times of need. It also showcases one of T'Challa's most important and fundamental traits, his leadership. A leader cannot stand alone. They must inspire passion and faith in their followers and be gracious to their people. T'Challa seeks to do just this, and his successful campaign against the rebel forces of Wakanda showcase his virtue at its very best. Number 9. T'Challa vs. Namor. Wakanda and Atlantis are both ancient and long mythologized cities, and the Black Panther and the Submariner adopt similar roles with their respective societies. As a result, a mutual respect between the two men was forged, a bond that kept Atlantis and the Wakanda's relationship in good standing. However, the breaking point between the two would lead to one of the most dramatic and intense battles the rulers would ever take part in. Both rulers were members of the infamous Marvel Boys Club, the Illuminati, a group of geniuses who all came together to solve one problem: the end of the world. In short, Earths of alternate universes were colliding into one another, destroying every living being on both planets. The only way to stop them, so decided the Illuminati, was to destroy one Earth before it could collide with another. However, when the time came to destroy a whole other planet, no one could bring themselves to pull the trigger. No one, that is, except Namor. Witnessing the aftermath of Namor's detonating the bomb proves too much to bear for any of the Illuminati, but particularly T'Challa. T'Challa confronts Namor saying, "We made our choice. I made my choice, and then you took it from me." Namor responds with, "Because you couldn't." The Black Panther lunges at Namor with such speed that even the ancient mutant can't anticipate. Their battle rages while the rest of the Illuminati watch on, stunned by the deeply personal ferocity shown by the two men. Eventually, Reed Richards steps in to stop them before anyone gets hurt, but the act of mercy is much too late. Too much has happened between T'Challa and Namor for anyone to step between them now. After a brief respite, T'Challa can't hold himself back any longer and throws himself once more at Namor, yelling, "Every breath you take is mercy from me, and now I am all out." This time, it takes the Hulk stepping in to quell Black Panther's fury, but the Submariner is far from finished. Namor looks at the Black Panther calmly and admits to something sinister. When Thanos attacked Earth looking for Infinity Stones, Atlantis had just suffered an attack at the command of T'Challa's sister Shuri. Namor admits to lying to Thanos, telling the Titan that Wakanda was hiding a stone as revenge for their attack. Namor's lie led to an assault on Wakanda like no other, and the loss of untold lives. Namor looks into T'Challa's eyes and says, "Do you know what I regret, King of the Dead? That there were so many left alive." This, understandably, is the final straw for the Black Panther. Once again, T'Challa reaches for Namor's throat with murderous intent, only barely held back by his fellow Illuminati. Before Namor leaves, T'Challa screams at the Prince of Atlantis, "I'm going to kill you, Namor! If it's the only thing I do before I die, I will kill you!" Though there were a great many things at stake during their battle, it would be a mistake to forget that Namor is one of the most physically powerful beings on the entire planet, and to even come close to killing the Submariner is a feat of incredible strength. Proof of just what the Black Panther is capable of when his country has been betrayed. But before we get to our next item on our list, be sure to subscribe to the channel with notifications on to never miss an upload, and smash that like button for some more Plot Armor comics. Now, without further ado, let's get back to Wakanda. Number 8. Took down Morlun. Namor may be one of the most powerful Earthlings the Black Panther has fought, but the dreaded inheritor Morlun is in a different supervillain weight class entirely. For those unaware, it took the combined force of the entire multiverse of Spider-Men and Spider-Woman to take down the Inheritors during the now famous Spider-Verse event. Even one of those spiritual parasites possess unthinkable strength and durability, strengthening even further as they devour the souls of those powered by spiritual totems. That includes Spider People, possibly Moon Knights, and most certainly Black Panthers, who get their power straight from the Panther goddess herself. Needless to say, when Morlun attacked Wakanda while T'Challa was deep in the midst of a coma, the Wakandan leadership panicked, especially when the Wakandan military launched the strongest assault of which they were capable, and Morlun simply shrugged it off like he had been hit with a paper airplane. It was in this moment, when the future of Wakanda was at stake from an unknown enemy with tremendous power, that Shuri, Princess of Wakanda, took it upon herself to don the suit of the Black Panther and protect her country. Only one catch. Shuri had recently communed with the Panther goddess, who had denied her powers of the Black Panther because of her arrogant attitude. That made it all the more inspiring when Shuri went up against Morlun anyway with no powers whatsoever to protect her. However, within her first few moments fighting against Morlun, the Inheritor becomes less drawn to the helpless T'Challa and more interested in subduing Shuri. In her act of bravery and self-sacrifice, the Panther goddess saw fit to instill Shuri with the powers of the Black Panther after all, and Morlun could sense the shift in totemic power. Though she did not know it during the fight, Shuri had once and for all claimed her birthright as the champion of Wakanda. The new Black Panther would enrage Morlun by getting a few solid hits in on the monster before rabbiting from the scene, leading Morlun on a wild goose chase through the city. Taking to the skies in a hovercraft, Shuri captures Morlun in a vicious net meant for wild game and tears off over the African jungle. Though the net wouldn't prove to hold the Black Panther's prey for long, and soon the Inheritor would crawl up the rope towards his prize. Jumping off the bike at the very last moment, Shuri is spared from the fiery explosion as the craft hurtles to the ground. Though not even the fall proved to slow Morlun down, but the Black Panther had already succeeded in her mission to lure the Inheritor to the home of the Wakanda's most prestigious magician. Before Morlun knows what has happened, the Wakandan magician uses an ancient and dark spell to transport Morlun to the lands beyond, where he would remain trapped by death itself, sparing not only Shuri's life but all of Wakanda from his wrath. This would be Shuri's first act as Black Panther, and her rule would later be recognized by all of Wakanda, with even her own brother handing over the throne to his sister and successor. Number 7. Wipe the floor with the entire Fantastic Four. Now we have the Black Panther's very first comic book appearance, which also happens to be one of the first times Wakanda ever extended an invitation to the outside world. Receiving an incredibly high-tech airship as a gift, Reed, Sue, Johnny, and Ben decide to heed the request from a mysterious African chief to visit their country as guests. Their curiosity piqued by how the tiny nation of Wakanda could get their hands on such an impressive flying machine, the FF quickly accept the mysterious Black Panther's invitation and head off. Little did they imagine a trap lay set for America's most famous and formidable superhero family, and they walked right into it. Upon landing on Wakandan soil, the team quickly realizes they've vastly underestimated their host. A densely packed man-made jungle towers around Marvel's first family upon descent, and their Wakandan guide ditches them almost immediately. When the Thing heads off in pursuit of their escort, he is electrified as he tries to tear through the technologically enhanced jungle around him. Before the rest of the Fantastic Four have time to worry about their resident rock monster, however, the Black Panther himself leaps from the depths of the jungle and lands devastating hits on both Johnny Storm and the Thing. Considering the Wakandans' hesitation towards revealing their technology, it would be important for their leader to prove to any who learn their secret that they are outmatched should they ever think of betraying Wakanda's trust. And when those trusted guests are the most powerful heroes in the world, it becomes even more important to assert dominance up front. Following the Black Panther's surprise attack, he finds the full attention of the Fantastic Four focused on him. Leading the angered Human Torch on a wild goose chase, Black Panther manages to trick Johnny into entering a vacuum-sealed cage, which traps the young hero and renders him virtually powerless. When the rest of the Fantastic Four are split up by Wakandan foot soldiers, T'Challa goes after Sue Storm first, using his amazing senses to track the Invisible Woman via sound and smell, pouncing with such a reflex that Sue's force fields aren't fast enough to shield her from a dose of sleep gas. The Thing is next, and unfortunately for Ben Grimm, he manages to stumble into trap after trap laid in the Wakandan tech jungle. Maneuvering their skirmish close to a highly volatile piece of machinery, the Thing's massive fist collides with the machine and the energy inside freezes the Fantastic Four's blockbuster cold. When he finally approaches his final target, Mr. Fantastic, the Black Panther has one more trick up his clawed sleeve. Turning off the lights, the second Reed stretches out to entangle his foe. T'Challa uses his enhanced senses to once again get close to Reed and land some solid blows. Though his victory would be sealed when Mr. Fantastic made a desperate grab and found his hands grappled with titanium cuffs. Though the Fantastic Four would eventually escape their bonds and surround their mysterious attacker, ending the hostilities, the Black Panther still managed to take out the entire super team in just a few minutes. The Fantastic Four, as the emissaries from the United States, would never forget the walloping Wakanda's defender gave them that day. Number 6. Decked out Mephisto. Fighting a different, but no less evil devil this time, Black Panther once proved his mettle against the most powerful demon ever to rule the Nine Hells. Mephisto is one of the lords of hell that has long plagued the heroes of Earth by putting forth plans through trickery and deception, most notably messing with the lives of Spider-Man and the Silver Surfer. He seeks out what any demon seeks: power, misery, and to expand his control of the realms below. Once, during an attempt to infiltrate and propagate within the material plane, Mephisto found a mortal foolish enough to summon him. Once summoned, the demon was held in place by his summoner, a young man named Ross. Mephisto had been helped into being by another of his followers, a Wakandan usurper named Achebe. Achebe had used the powers he bought from Mephisto to take over Wakanda and push T'Challa into banishment. As such, the Black Panther took it upon himself to track down the danger firsthand. T'Challa was hot on the trail of the beast when he finally caught up to the demon in New York City. When the Black Panther bursts into the room, Ross pleads with T'Challa, "Kill him! Kill him! Do you want me to call the Avengers?" To which the King of Wakanda responds, "Why?" before clocking the demon on the chin and sending him hurtling to the floor. T'Challa didn't let up for even a second. Mephisto's physical form had barely hit the ground before the Black Panther was upon him, ripping into his chest with vibranium claws. Tearing out the heart of the demon, T'Challa tossed it to Ross before all three were teleported to the planes beyond. Though this moment marks a particularly difficult time in T'Challa's reign as king, his badass takedown of one of Marvel's most powerful supernatural entities not only shows the Black Panther's impressive physical strength and bravery, but his deep training and knowledge of the mystical and magical as well. Plenty of Marvel heroes are physical powerhouses, and plenty more are trained in the magical arts. Very few are competent in both, which is part of what makes Black Panther so unique and formidable. Number 5. Healed Galactus. During the first ever mission of the Ultimates, a team including America Chavez, Captain Marvel, Spectrum, and Blue Marvel, Black Panther was teleported to deep space to dialogue with one of the most powerful and dreaded beings in the entire cosmos. None other than the World Eater himself, Galactus. Even the teleportation process itself nearly killed T'Challa, as the process of translocating across entire light years has many potent risks of its own. But none more dangerous than the Black Panther's intended destination, Galactus' own flying fortress. Once there, T'Challa immediately witnessed the destruction of a whole fleet of spaceships and the entire planet they were protecting. In his eternal and unquestionable hunger, Galactus does not hesitate to wipe out anything in his path, which is why when the Black Panther blips onto his spacecraft, the World Eater immediately invites T'Challa to leave or else be forfeit.
The audacity of you! A mayfly addressing a star as if it were an equal.
Galactus bellows at T'Challa as the King of Wakanda attempts to negotiate with an entity far above his station. But the Wakandan leader doesn't give up. At that moment, two of his teammates, America Chavez and Spectrum, arrive on the scene with Galactus' incubation chamber in tow. For those unfamiliar with Galactus' inter-universal origin story, the monster was not always the dreaded, world-consuming being he is now. He was once a man who lived in the universe before our own. When that universe came to a close, the man known as Galen made an escape raft of sorts, one that could carry him from the heat death of his universe into the next. His plan worked, but with one small caveat. When he emerged, he became filled with an unending, unbearable hunger that can only be satiated by consuming entire worlds. The Ultimates, as their first mission, sought to fix Galactus' hunger, though even the very idea offended the gargantuan space titan.
I am not a problem to be solved,
rebuked Galactus, though his words did little to stop the heroes from trying. Attacking as a team, the Ultimates managed to catch the World Eater off guard. As the more powerful heroes keep Galactus busy, T'Challa retreats into the Kimoyo supercomputer contained within his suit, using the tech to interface directly with Galactus' birth pod. Once the technology is primed, Blue Marvel and Captain Marvel begin to charge it with the help of Spectrum, who harnesses the same wavelength of energy they emit and directs it towards Galactus. A brilliant flash of light, and then all is suddenly quiet. The heroes sit in the eerie silence of Galactus' home and wonder if their mission has been a success or a failure. Only Black Panther, having communed directly with Galactus during his interplanetary translocation, knows the truth of their endeavor, for he dreams that night of the new Galactus his team has brought into the world. Not a harbinger of death, but a bringer of life. Again, Black Panther manages to prove that he is one of the greatest heroes the world has ever seen, but not by virtue of his brawn alone. His knowledge, his compassion, and the conviction with which he believes the world could be better propels T'Challa to achieve things others could only ever dream of. Number 4. Two Black Panthers liberate Wakanda from Dr. Doom. During the Doom War event, an infamous Latvian dictator had his eyes set on Wakanda's burgeoning and bountiful supply of vibranium. By propping up a political faction calling themselves the Destiny, Dr. Doom seized control of the Wakandan government and military by staging a coup. His first act was to imprison the Wakandan Queen Storm on false charges, delegitimizing the former X-Men's claim to power and gaining a hostage should the banished Prince T'Challa and Princess Shuri try to reconquer their old kingdom. Of course, that's exactly what the two Black Panthers intended to do, but not without some help. T'Challa and Shuri headed to Genosha, the mutant island nation, and pleaded with Cyclops to help them retake the throne and save Storm. Though Cyclops' hands were tied politically, 3 individual X-Men, Wolverine, Nightcrawler, and Colossus agreed to assist the Black Panthers. Though Shuri and T'Challa had the same goal, their ideas on how to attain the goal differed significantly. Shuri summed up her point of view with the rest of the X-Men.
Perhaps I'm being less optimistic than my brother, but I don't believe it is possible to retake Wakanda and defeat Doom without bloodshed. This isn't a fairy tale.
Meanwhile, Doom and his associates blackmailed Storm into opening the vibranium vaults, promising,
I'll begin killing your royal subjects, 10,000 every minute.
Needless to say, when the Black Panther's forces arrive at the doorstep of Wakanda, they mean business. It seemed the Panthers were preparing to launch a full frontal assault, throwing their full might at the defenses of the Golden City until they seized the throne room itself. That is, until Nightcrawler teleported Shuri and T'Challa right into the middle of said throne room, and Shuri broke the neck of the implanted Wakandan ruler herself. With chaos reigning in the Wakandan chain of command, the Panthers' assault could begin in earnest. As Wolverine and Colossus cut through the front lines with the Dora Milaje, T'Challa and Shuri cut two different paths through the castle, one more bloodier than the other. When Shuri's squadron begins to be overwhelmed by Wakandan forces, T'Challa finds his queen with Doom's gun to her head. When Doom releases Storm and makes his sudden escape, he leaves T'Challa to realize that his plan has succeeded. Doom had stolen all of Wakanda's vibranium. Enlisting the help of the Fantastic Four, the Panthers leap into action to rescue their country's most valuable asset. When the Wakandan showdown with Doom comes to a head, T'Challa stands before the Latverian king and says, "You've attacked my people. You've murdered my uncle and my friends. I have every reason to want to see you dead, but I ask you in the name of peace and sanity to stand down." Needless to say, Doom refuses. The two armies clash against one another with renewed fervor and hatred. By sheer force of will, not to mention a card or two up their sleeve, the Panthers' forces prevail against the Latverian assault. As Doom kneels, defeated at the feet of Princess Shuri, she tells him,
I want to kill you more than I wanted anything else in my life. But that is the action of a savage, and I am a ruler of a sovereign nation. A nation that does not wage illegal wars. This war ends here, Doom.
The Latverian infiltration and overthrow of Wakanda represents one of the most successful attempts at destabilizing Wakanda ever attempted. And though momentarily Wakanda's future looked bleak, the nation could rest easy knowing that it had not one but two Black Panthers protecting its best interest. However, even Doom War wouldn't be T'Challa's most dramatic battle against the forces of Dr. Doom. Number 3. Subdued the Silver Surfer. Few in the vast reaches of the universe can say they've gone up against the Silver Surfer and lived to tell the tale. As the Herald of Galactus himself, infused with the power cosmic, the Surfer wields one of the most powerful energy sources in the entire cosmos. His sole mission? To seek out worlds for his hungering master to feed upon. The Silver Surfer has the power to take down entire armies, to turn deserts into oceans, to fly spaceways without food or drink in perpetuity. This is a being of immense and unknowable power, and yet the Black Panther once found himself facing off against the Sentinel of the Skyway in a battle over the life of a planet. When the Surfer came to pronounce the living planet Epoch as the Great Galactus' next meal, T'Challa and Storm, substituting into the Fantastic Four for Reed and Sue Richards, just happened to be nearby. Knowing they couldn't let Galactus feed on a living planet, the Thing began to fight by trying to chase the Surfer away with sheer force. This tact proved ineffective. When Storm takes her shot at the Herald, she manages to do significantly better than Ben Grimm. Storm, as a Class 5 mutant, has no upper limit to her power set, and her weather powers extend past just the planet's atmosphere to the vacuum of outer space. When Storm conjures an electrical storm to strike the Surfer, she actually manages to knock him off kilter for a moment or two. And when the Surfer recalls his board to him, none other than the Black Panther stalks in wait as the surfboard speeds towards its master. Leaping from the board at precisely the right moment, T'Challa actually manages to grapple the Silver Surfer, something that up to this point had literally never been done before. He tells the Surfer, I'm wagering that your physique is as humanoid as it appears. If I am right, you won't be able to break this hold, despite your vastly superior strength. For one shining moment, the Black Panther actually holds the Silver Surfer at his mercy. That is until another Herald of Galactus, Stardust, arrives and the fight begins anew. But the swiftness of the moment shouldn't take away from the size of the achievement. T'Challa actually managed to clasp the Silver Surfer in his arms. This may be the only time in the Surfer's entire life he had been handled in such a way. And while the moment certainly speaks to the Black Panther's powerful strength, it even more so gives us an awesome display of T'Challa's strategic prowess. But still, the Surfer is just the herald of a god. How would the Black Panther fare against a god themselves? Number 2, briefly became Eternity's Herald. When mechanically enhanced monsters began attacking cities all across the planet, the Avengers found themselves outgunned and woefully outmaneuvered. Unable to ascertain where the monsters were being sent from or how to stop the attacks, Tony Stark and T'Challa created custom mech suits for every member of the team to help hold off the invasion of monstrous biomechanoids. After months of reoccurring attacks, Tony and T'Challa were still unable to track the origin of the invaders. That is until they realized they were asking the wrong question. Instead of where are these coming from, they should have been asking when. As soon as the two super geniuses discovered Kang the Conqueror was the mastermind behind the biomechanoid crisis, the time-traveling tyrant himself arrived and unceremoniously disintegrated T'Challa before Tony's eyes. Losing one of their most fearless friends and teammates left the remaining heroes feeling hopeless and outmatched. As Tony put it, the day the Panther fell was the last day. It was the end of history, the end of the future. But little did the team know, the Black Panther was far from out of the fight. Coming to his senses in a distant corner of the universe, T'Challa exhibits his famously stoic disposition. "I was dead," he says matter-of-factly, "and now I am not." Momentarily confused by his resurrection, his savior soon reveals itself as eternity, the entity that is all things. The living universe itself asks the Panther,
Will you take on my power? Will you take on my cause? Will you take on the mantle of my herald?
T'Challa accepts and meets Kang and his army of monstrosities on the battlefield with the rest of the Avengers, though even the power of eternity proves barely enough to withstand Kang's empowered state. Thinking as only the Black Panther could, T'Challa chooses to use his newfound power not to attack but to evade. T'Challa slips through Kang's fingers and camouflages himself within the time streams. Using all of history as his hiding place, the Black Panther deftly returns to the exact moment that Kang unleashed the first biomechanoid onto the past and breaks the Tyrant's machine before he can even put his plan into motion. With this, Kang's entire assault is crippled before it could begin, and the wayward time traveler is left at the mercy of eternity itself. Though T'Challa's time as the Herald of Eternity would be exceedingly brief, only a few minutes long, he would use every second as only a king could to save his nation, his planet, and even time itself. Number 1. Fought God. During the now famous and immensely complicated Secret Wars of 2015, Dr. Doom used the powers of the omnipotent Molecule Man to literally remake the universe in his image. And not in a cutesy fairy tale magic kind of way, in an immensely significant, wildly corrupt, and virtually world-ending way. Doom very literally became God. He was omnipotent, all-powerful, and the only thing that could even possibly stand up to God Doom in his new world was a little old gauntlet with 6 shiny gemstones. To take down Doom, the small group of survivors from the previous universe split into teams. T'Challa was sent with, you guessed it, Namor the Submariner to find any weapons of Stephen Strange's that the heroes could use against God Doom. As the unlikeliest of duos make their way through Strange's vault, T'Challa sees a golden glove glowing in a box and immediately knows what he is there to retrieve. But even still, the Black Panther's plans are only in their infancy. As the heroes prepare their last-ditched attempt to overthrow God, T'Challa travels to the outskirts of Doom's world and greets the hordes of zombies that live outside of Doom's walls. Calling upon those armies as the King of the Dead, just as he called on the Black Panthers of old, T'Challa rallies the zombie army to help rise up against their god that cast them aside. At last, T'Challa's plan is ready, and he radios Mr. Fantastic to inform him that whenever the fighting starts, the Black Panther and his army of the dead is ready to pounce. As the hero's final assault commences, God Doom himself enters the fray of the battle, though it seems none could dream of standing up to him. That is until a portal opens across the field and the Black Panther arrives. The Panther's armies of the dead pour through his entrance before T'Challa himself steps onto the battlefield. The Black Panther arrives wielding the power of a god himself in the form of the great and terrible Infinity Gauntlet. The Panther and the Doctor fight only as gods can, each wielding omnipotence as a knight would a sword and shield. Their battle would go down in the history books as one of the most overpowered fights in the entire Marvel Universe, 2 God Kings with all of their strength aimed towards one another. With such incredible might at their fingertips, their battle would take forms mortal beings can't even fathom. But even with all that power, T'Challa's fight with God Doom was only meant as a distraction while Reed Richards would usurp the Well of Doom's power, just as Doom had once stolen Wakanda's vibranium. The Infinity Gauntlet is a relic of such potency that even one of the stones could kill most individuals on impact. To wield all 6 stones at once is a feat rarely attempted even by beings such as Thanos, whose natural biology and strength give him such a higher likelihood of surviving. T'Challa not only wielded the stones, but he brought them into a battle against another god. There's no telling the vastness and enormity of what T'Challa had to endure to hold Doom back, for even using the stones at all is an act that can ensure death. But as we've seen today, when the Black Panther sets their mind to something, there is simply nothing in this universe that will stand in their way. Well, that does it for this video, everyone. Thank you so much for watching our countdown of the Black Panther's greatest feats. Did we miss your favorite Black Panther moment? Let us know in the comments. I've been Morse Code, and you've been awesome, and on behalf of all of us here at Plot Armor Comics, we hope you have a great day.